Hello and welcome back to a new episode of us programming. So today, or this episode, we are going to be doing step 130 and 131 for sure, and maybe 132. We'll see how it goes, because I want to finish this off today and I'm not certain how to break it up. If 130 and 131 are going to be easy, then I will do 132 as well, or I might do 130 and 131, and then do 132, 3 and 4 and 5 altogether, but depends. I think I might do these 3 and then these 3 afterwards. So anyway, that's up for me to decide, but let's get going. I will watch the first video and show you and tell you what happens, so see you in a bit. No, oh god. Basically, what happened? Well, I was following the steps like I was supposed to and everything, and I was like, this should be working. So I've done what Andre has done. I was like, let's go. But error came up telling me that like username was not defined. And I was like, well, why? And I was looking at everything, like I've spelled the username right, and like it's like I was going from the top to the bottom. I was like checking to see the username prompt was working. I was doing all sorts, and I was like, this should be working, so why is it not working? And basically, after fiddling about with it for quite a bit, I misspelled username. So it wasn't actually like me being dumb, but obviously I was, because I didn't recognize that it was actually wrong. But it wasn't me thinking something was putting something down incorrectly. It was just me misspelling a random word. Anyway, so that was fun. Not really. Anyway, so let's see. There's still a bit left of the video, so watch that and get back to you. Hello, so we're done with this part. Basically, what have we done? Well, you can see we have quite a bit. So first of all, we have we have a variable called database and an array. That's the one. In an array with objects of username and password inside. So that's that basically. So that's all in database. Then we also have a newsfeed with, you know, a newsfeed array with 3 different, you know, objects that include, you know, different like subheading sort of things. And then afterwards we have a variable username prompt, and that means that we prompt the, you know, browser to say what is your username, and then we have another variable which is a password. That should just be one word: password user. Yeah, there we go. And password prompt, and we're, you know, prompting what is your password. And then lastly we have a sign in, a function of sign in, and that is requesting username and a password. And if username is equal to the database's you know, first array, or 0, which is the first array, which is this, and inside of it it's what username is equal to. So if the username in database 0 dot username is Sigmund, or is equal to what, you know, what username we gave it, and the password, you know, is the same as the password there, then console log.log will give us the newsfeed. Else, if that's not the case, alert, sorry, wrong username or password. And then lastly we have the actual action of the function being activated to sign in and requesting, you know, your username and password. So let's see that in action. So we have that saved and we refresh, and what's your username? So we have our username as Sigmund. Yep. And then we have a secret 1, 2, 3, and then look, disappeared, which is our newsfeed. So we can see that James says in the timeline that JavaScript is very interesting, and then Connor says how that's my first course, and then Jess says I created my first website. That's not spell created. Anyway, I'll change it. Created my first website, and yeah, basically, so that is our first go at, you know, making something quite similar to what Facebook is like. So we made our own like Facebook 2.0 version sort of thing, which is quite fun. So this was this episode, and not episode, I mean this step. And now let's move on to the next one and the last one from this episode, which is JavaScript terminology. Terminology, is it? No, that was just the first one. Oh god. Yeah, so we still have JavaScript terminology and loops to do, so let's get on with that. Okay, welcome back. So that was a quick one. Basically we went over all the terminology that we have been using. So for instance, we have been using a function declaration, which is us declaring, you know, what the function is. So that is function name and then brackets, you know, for us to, you know, activate it, and then, you know, like the wiggly brackets to, you know, enclose the actual function we would like. Then we have a function expression, which we have variable function name equals to function brackets, and then curly brackets to give it what function we would like to say. Also, you can put a name in front of the function, but that's not usually the case. Then we have expressions, so like 1 plus 3, or variable a equals 2, or return true, that sort of things. Then we can call or invoke on a function, so we can do that by having, like, for instance, an alert, and then the brackets which invoke it or activate it, and then obviously the little semicolon thing, and then or something like new function, and then 2 parameters in it. So we have one bracket, and then inside we have something, and then another thing, and we can activate both of them. And then what else have we got? We have also got we have got variables, so we can say variable a is true, or variable cat is big, or equals big, or I don't know, something like that. And then we can also have functions and methods. So we have functions, those are the ones that just have function in the name, so function name brackets curly brackets, and then that's a function. And a method is something that is actually like inside of a variable. So we would have variable, or not inside of a variable, inside of an object. So we have variable, object, and then inside of it we have just any sort of function, or any sort of thing is a method. And then lastly, what else have we got? There are separate ways to call upon these. So for instance, a function you would call upon by saying the function, and then brackets, and then a method you would call upon by saying the method's name, or not the object's name, and then dot, and then the following thing that you were using. So basically that was recapping the terminology that we have been using, and also build Facebook. So we've done 2. I'll take a little bit of a break and then get onto loops in a second. See you in a bit. Okay guys, let's do step 132 and let's get going. See you in a bit. Hello and welcome back. So we have done many things, many things, quite a lot of things. So first of all, what have we done? Let's focus on the left hand side first. So we created a to-do list. So with variable to-do list, and then we had, you know, the arrays in order, and we had 4 arrays. Then we could, with the to-do list dot length, we could check the actual length of the to-do list. We could do that for words as well. So hello, 6 letters long, and then we had we could set the variable for I to equal to 0. This meant that I equaled 0, and then we have done I plus plus. Then when we checked, I equaled 1. If we've done it again, I equaled 2. So plus plus just means add 1. Then we have done this. So let me find this. So basically, I can't find it here, but basically what we had is something along this line. So we just basically had this, but instead of having console log and to-do list I, we had to-do list bracket I plus exclamation mark. And this meant that we didn't have to add an exclamation mark onto every single one individually, which was great because, you know, if you have hundreds of, you know, objects into list, then obviously that's going to take a lot of time. So this way you can do it more efficiently and easily. So let's actually go over this. So we have the variable, we have a second variable which we're going to ignore for now. And then what we have is a variable of to-do list length equaling to the length of the to-do list. This means that the to-do list length is a constant once it gets to this part in the code. And then what we have, if you have a variable of I to equal to 0. So we set I to always equal 0, and if I is equal to, or is smaller than to-do list length, then we add 1 to the I. So for instance, if this was 0 and to-do list length was 4, as it is in this case, then we add 1 to the to-do list length. No, we don't. We first of all do we? I'm pretty sure we first of all do move on to the next step, possibly, maybe, but anyway, we're going to do both of them. So we're going to add 1 to the I, so I is going to be equal to 1 now instead of 0, and console.log, we're going to actually log the to-do list in the console, and that is going to be a console log I, console list, not to-do list I, because I is also going to be the order of you know, which one we're using. So yes, I'm pretty sure it's going to be yes. So we're going to do to-do list length, then it's going to move to this one. Then because to-do list length is going to be, so I is going to be 0 before we add 1. Then to-do list length and then bracket I, which is 0. The first one, which will be clean room, will appear here. And then we're gonna add 1 to it, and then we're also and also to do with this, we're gonna have a number next to it, which is gonna be 0, because first of all I is going to be 0, as you can see here. Yes, so this proves the point that after I is greater than to-do list length, no, to-do list length is greater than I, it will move on to the console log, print out the first one, which is under, you know, 0, and then print out the number next to it, which is 0, and then add 1. And then it repeats the process, because now I is going to be 1, but that's still going to be less than the to-do list length, which is 4. So then it's going to repeat this process until it gets to the last one, when I, which is going to be equal to 4, is going to equal to the to-do list length, and that time this will not be the case, so they will equal and I won't be on the same length, and that will end the task. Then we have also got so this is a for loop. I forgot to mention to you. Yes, so this is a for. So for basically means that I'm pretty sure it means for as long as this is the case, you know, keep on doing it. I'm pretty sure. And then we have that's not what I meant to do. That's not what I meant to do either. There we go. For as long as so then we also have a for each, which means that we can condense this down a lot further. Basically, we can do something on the lines of to-do list, and then we can do dot for each. So for each of the to-do lists, basically, do a function of to-do list, which is to-dos, which are basically the names, and then do an I, which is the equal to 0, and then console log it to the same thing that we had here. So this I kind of understand, but not fully, because I'll understand it later on. But this is a lot easier way of doing this, because then we can go about creating to-do list. Yeah, so this is function to-do list. Then I think these two are basically quite similar. I just have the thing is I have quite a lot of things here just so I can show it and, you know, say it all. And then lastly we have to-do list for each log to-do list. So then this is the actual thing that's printing it off, and then we have the important for each log to-do list, and this way we can just do for each and we can use this log to-do list. Oh yeah, this is why this is really useful, because we can do function, so we can simplify this down even further by doing a function log to-do list, and then we can just call it to do and I, and then we can log the to do and I console log, and then we can use that for both of the arrays just really easily. Then we can also do count downs and count ups, basically, so I can show you one of these. And basically these are just two ways we can go about doing it. And if I save and refresh, is that, let me clear all of this up. Oh yeah, that's because, so this is actually another thing. Yes, and I forgot to mention this. So the last thing that we learned is that we have to-dos and we have do's and while, and basically what that means is that while, this is kind of like for, but just a bit different, because we say while this is the case, we're not saying for all of the variables, because for is like for all the variables. For while we set a criteria, and while that is the case, we're going to keep on doing it. So we have variable counter 1 is equal to 10, and then we have counter 10 is greater than 10, which means that that's not the case, and that's why we won't be reducing the numbers. But here with the do while, we have do this, basically to reduce the counter number 2, and then we do this while counter number 2 is greater than, no, yes, greater than 10. So if I save and I refresh, we will get that do while does it first and then looks at the criteria, while just looks at the criteria first and then does the thing that you ask it. So yeah, quite complex in all honesty. Also lastly we have, you know, for each, and we can just check to see how, you know, usable it is and which browsers, you know, accept it, and they basically all do, so it's good enough. So this is all we have done, and yeah, I found it quite complex with all the whiles and do's and do whiles and the fors, and these little i's, they seem a bit complex, but I mean it was quite interesting and whatnot. So yeah, I'll get the hang of it eventually, and all good. So this was it for this episode. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, like, subscribe, all sorts, and see you in the next one. Bye bye.